The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Monday night. Hope everybody is having a great week. Don't you like this week between Christmas and New Year? It's kind of a relaxing time. Nobody's really back at work, but it's not complete vacation. It's kind of somewhere in between all those things. I find it relaxing, a time to do work and also do kind of personal planning, prepare for those New Year's resolutions and everything like that. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of the week as well and are enjoying it. I got a lot of comments on the new lens and wide angle, and I don't think it distorts my hands when I go out there, but I don't think it right where I am. It looks pretty good. Jeffrey's back at work. Restaurant is open Monday. Are you open on Monday? Anyway, if not actually serving customers, then prepping, I'm sure. So thank you for all of you who commented on the new lens, on the look. We'll keep improving it. There will be at some point a painting hanging over here above David. Maybe I'll put something up there. Maybe we'll put some kind of poster painting up there. So we'll add to the decor of the room as we go along. So, but I'm glad that you guys like the look. The only disadvantage of this look, and I apologize for those of you in the podcast who can't see this, is I actually have to close my top button now because you can see. I usually would do the podcast like that, but no, that's not a good look for a professional podcast like mine. All right, let's see. We are going to be talking about, quickly, we're going to talk about crime a little bit and about defunding the police. We're going to keep track of that phenomena just generally over the next months, years, coming out of kind of last year and all the defunding the police. We're going to keep track on what's actually happening out there in the world. We're then going to talk about Elizabeth Warren's attacks, both on Elon Musk and on reality. And you could argue, she has an interesting new theory about the source of inflation. So we'll talk about Elizabeth Warren's theory about the source of inflation. And we'll talk about exchange of tweets with Elon Musk, an exchange of tweets that I think she won. So I think that is probably very different than what most people think. But I think she won that exchange because I think he basically capitulated in the end because she has the moral high ground and he doesn't. And until people understand that that's what it's about, we keep losing. And then we'll end with, the conflict between Trump and his supporters over vaccines, which has to be one of the funniest stories of 2021. It's a great way to end the year. So we'll cover some of that and what happened and why Trump is reluctant to criticize Biden now. We'll talk about that as well. So, so got a bunch of stuff. Of course, we also answered your Super Chat questions. We'll do that at the end. So feel free to jump in with Super Chat questions. I see I already have 3, but the focus should be on $20 questions. We do have a goal of $600. A show which we didn't make on the day after Christmas, so we didn't make it there. So we'll see if we can make it today. So remember to pitch in $20 as for questions, 20, 50, 100, 300, 500. We can get there very quickly if some of you do some of the large gifts that you have done in the past. All right, let's, just quickly, Brian asks, when are you having Harry been swearing on? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Harry will be on a week from tomorrow. He'll be on a week from tomorrow. I think that is January 4th. It'll be 7 p.m. East Coast time. And we will talk all things epistemology. But you can also ask him about Ayn Rand. I mean, he's the first person to be on the show that actually knew Ayn Rand, and you'll be able to ask him about Ayn Rand. You'll be able to ask him about free will, about how we know, about anything in epistemology or anything in objectivism. It'll be completely open. So I will have a series of questions and push him a little bit on free will, because I want us to get a good handle on this issue of free will. I also want to give him an opportunity to promote his YouTube show, which he has, Harry Bensway TV. So we're going to do that as well. And so that is a week from tomorrow. I'm excited about it. I think you should be too. And hopefully you'll bring a lot of the questions you might have about epistemology, about philosophy, that maybe I don't always give the best answers for, or you don't even ask me because I'm not a philosopher. You can bring and ask Harry Binswanger. So that'll be a week from tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do a show, not sure yet on the topic. We'll come up with something, but so we'll get that. I'll advertise that tomorrow, and then Thursday, the show will be dedicated to a review of 2021 highlights and lowlights of the year, and yeah, so we'll do 2021, the good, the bad, and the ugly for 2021, and then Saturday's show will be devoted to 2022. So New Year's resolutions, predictions about the coming year. I will answer any questions you have about anything about next year, from policy, domestic policy, economics, objectivism, the Yaron Brook Show, whatever you guys want to talk about in terms of 2022. We'll do that on Saturday, and then we'll get back to kind of a normal schedule. My plan is for next year to do probably 2 interviews a month, and we'll go for there. Scott asks, is Robert Breedlove religious? I can't tell. Why are you asking? I'm curious why Scott is asking. Alex, thank you. That is very generous. I really appreciate that. Scott, Alex just $49.99. And Liam is getting us back on track with a $20 question. So that is excellent. So and there's Jonathan Honing, who is almost always makes an appearance. Hey, Jonathan, it's good to see you. All right, let's jump in with really just a quick update on the state of police defunding in America. So one of the cities most affected by BLM last year, and the city maybe most affected by a spike in crime over the last 2 years, has been the city of Chicago. This is a city where we saw significant calls for cutting police budgets, significant calls for reducing the power of police, the influence of police, the reach of police in our cities. And of course, in 2020, during when crime was going through the roof and BLM was out in the streets and the police were being chased by BLM, it should be the other way around, but it wasn't. Looting was all over Michigan Avenue. If you remember, BLM then said looting is just a form of redistribution of wealth. This is reparations. This is a good thing. Completely screwed. The mayor of Chicago, Lightfoot, proposed at the time cutting the police budget by $80 million. $80 million. Well, now, as murders have hit a 27-year high, 27-year high. Where would that put us in terms of 1990 something, right? Yeah, 1994. So 1984, murders actually peaked in Chicago, I think, in 91. But since 1994, they've been steadily in decline. It's been a phenomenon. It has been amazing, the reduction in crime all over the United States, and particularly in the big cities like New York and Chicago. And for 25 years approximately, crime was declining. When when Trump was elected and announced there was carnage in the streets of America, some of the most peaceful, less violent times in all of American history. Anyway, as Chicago is hitting right now a 27-year high, erasing 27 years of achievement, of reduction, systematic reduction in crime generally, and in particular in murder rates. Mayor Lightfoot is panicking and running to the feds and asking Attorney General Mary Garland to send additional federal law enforcement officials to the city. She says, we can't continue to endure the level of violence that we're now experiencing. Oh my God, the world is crazy. This is nuts. What's going to happen? And she's actually asking for federal aid. You remember when Trump was pilloried by Democratic mayors for suggesting federal aid during the BLM riots and during the crime waves that preceded and followed. Well, now these same Democratic mayors are requesting aid because they realize that it's out of control, and now there's no politics to play. Now it's all about just trying to reduce crime. It truly is one of the last 2 years will go down as one of a true tragedy where, at least in parts of the United States, again, these record achievements of lowering crime that we have experienced for 25 years, or more than 25 years, really since 1981, so for 30 years, have now been reversed. And we're seeing an uptick in many cities around the country, an uptick and generally in property crime and other forms of crime, and in particular in murder. We are returning to the 1970s and 80s where crime was out of control in this country. One other example of this is New York, which again has seen a dramatic increase in crime. And as a consequence, I think, of that, just elected a Democratic mayor who is very much a centrist and a law and order Democrat and is committed to increasing police budgets and increasing the presence of police, and he was a former policeman, Eric Adams, a former Republican, and he's just been elected to New York's mayor. And you can see that the electorate is rebelling against kind of the far left's agenda, as expressed last year, in particular, of defunding the police, shutting them down, eliminating them. I mean, as you know, even in Minnesota, the electorate voted against doing away with the police force in Minneapolis, even though, a year ago, it looked like, a year and a half ago, it looked like that was for certain going to pass. And yet the election in November, people don't actually want to live in crime-ridden neighborhoods. And most people, including people who live in those neighborhoods, realize the crucial importance of the police and the value the police actually add. In San Francisco, San Francisco, God, what a tragedy. I mean, San Francisco is arguably one of the most beautiful cities in the world. The whole Bay Area is just beautiful. The views, the scenery, the Golden Gate Bridge, the skyline in downtown San Francisco, the hills, driving the windy roads. It's just, if you've never been to San Francisco, it's definitely a place to go. It's beautiful, it's inspiring. And of course, in the last few years, in the last 10, 15 years, it's been a mecca for high tech. It used to be Silicon Valley, but a lot of the high tech companies have moved north to San Francisco. Twitter and many other companies have their headquarters there, a lot of startups. It's a gorgeous place. And yet, even when I lived in the Bay Area in the 1990s, it was a haven for the homeless. And the homeless were particularly aggressive in San Francisco, particularly aggressive towards passerbys, and particularly, offensive, in just their attitude and their behavior. But it's only gotten worse. And a few years ago, I was in San Francisco, and I was attending an event at the Tenderloin District at a theater there. There was a comedy show my son was in, and I was attending the comedy show. And it just was unbelievable. I'd never seen it like this. Basically, this is 2 blocks away from Union Square, the heart of San Francisco. It's just an encampment. The filth, hundreds of homeless people, again, aggressive, shooting up on the streets, dozens and dozens and dozens of them in this area of I don't know, 4 blocks. And I had to walk through in order to get to this theater. It was not particularly fun. But even driving in the streets, they run into the streets. Some of them are obviously mentally out of it. Some of them are just on drugs. You're afraid of you're going to run one of them over. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. You know, business owners, forget it. I mean, nobody wants to go and to that district and buy anything and shop or anything like that. So businesses are collapsing in the area because of just a mass of homelessness there. Anyway, the mayor of San Francisco, again a Democrat, but probably more of a moderate Democrat, by the name of London Breed, and she's declared a state of emergency in the city's Tenderloin District, that is this area where all the homeless are. And she basically is encouraging the police to go and clean it up and basically move the drug addicts, I guess, to an area where they can be treated and they can be dealt with, clean it up, prevent people from defecating and from sleeping right there in the street. That's the other thing. You had to walk around all the human poop all over the place. And it's one thing to try to evade dog poop, but human poop. And it's so finally, maybe San Francisco is going to do something about some of its homeless problem. It's still not a long-term solution. It's still not a sustainable solution. That will only come when affordable housing is actually built, real affordable housing. And that will only happen when people in the street expected to work and expected to do something in order to get that housing. But you know, it's interesting. Now, in San Francisco, the progressive prosecutor who famously is not prosecuting shoplifting, and as a consequence, in San Francisco, there's this epidemic, if you will, of shoplifting. You know, in San Francisco, the reason there's this epidemic is the district attorney has basically declared shoplifting not a crime. Anyway, the district attorney came out and he denounced the mayor's declaration, right? So he opposes the state of emergency in the Tenderloin. I guess he wants people there. You know, he wants them just to live there and just to destroy the place. He said jailing people who have mental health struggles, putting who are vending hot dogs and other people in cages will not solve the problem. Cages, right? They are only right, and so you know, it's still a struggle in San Francisco, even though the mayor might be a little bit better. It is still a struggle given the district, you know, the Attorney General of San Francisco, who is the guy who is supposed to prosecute people, is, I guess, really refusing to act. So it's going to be interesting. We'll watch what happens in San Francisco, whether anything positive comes of this. But it is interesting, this conflict in the left between the moderates who actually want to win and who actually want, I think in some way, honestly, want to create a better quality of life, but who are just dominated by altruism, and the far left, who is completely wacky, nihilistic, doesn't care one iota about quality of life, is completely bought into altruism all the way to its nihilistic conclusion. That struggle among the Democrats is fascinating, and we're seeing playing out. We'll see it play out in New York. We'll see it play out in Chicago. We'll see it play out in San Francisco, Portland, Seattle. Many of our cities will experience this dichotomy of people who get elected who are going to be the more moderate, but the grassroots who are far more extreme and nutty and nihilistic. And that'll determine to a large extent the fate of the Democratic Party. The other thing that'll determine the fate of the Democratic Party is, of course, the Republican Party. All right, so quick update on that. I thought you'd find it. I thought you'd find it interesting. I am going to. I'm going to keep track of that. All right, Elizabeth Warren, the honorable, or actually no, the dishonorable senator from the great state of Massachusetts, a great state that will elect a woman like this is something else. Elizabeth Warren stakes out a unique, I think, position in American politics. She posits herself as a defender of capitalism. She differentiates herself from Bernie Sanders by saying she is not a socialist, but a defender of capitalism, but a humane capitalism, a proper capitalism, a capitalism of competition, a capitalism where the government plays a big role. Maybe she's a proponent of Chinese-style state capitalism. I don't know, but in the election, she always says, "No, I'm a capitalist. I'm not anti-capitalism. I just want everything regulated." She doesn't say this, but she just wants everything regulated, everything controlled from the government. She is the fascist to Bernie Sanders' socialist. I mean, she really is the definition of fascist. She wants you all to believe you have private property. She wants you all to have incentives as if you have private property. She wants you all to make a lot of money so she can tax it. She wants you all to innovate so she will take credit for it, for the economic growth to generate from that. She wants the pretense of private property, the pretense of capitalism, the pretense of markets, while the property, the businesses, the markets are completely controlled by the government, by her. That's Elizabeth Warren. Very popular among Democrats, particularly, I'd say, among the sophisticated class, the class that doesn't quite like Bernie Sanders because he's too in-their-face socialist. But among the policy geeks, you remember when she ran for president, she had like 555 different plans. She had a plan for everything. She was going to fix everything. She had a plan, a fascist plan to address every single issue, right, that possibly could occur. So Warren is very, very respected among the elites, the elite, the economists, the policy wonks, the people in the Democratic Party who want control and who want to control over pretty much everything. Well, Elizabeth Warren is worried about inflation because, as is everybody else, inflation, as we all know, is at another more than 27-year high. I mean, I guess inflation is tracking crime. It's at a over 30-year high. We haven't seen this kind of inflation since the 1980s. And arguably, it could very well get worse. We'll see how much it gets worse. We'll leave the projection about inflation to our show on Saturday. But at least for now, she is worried about inflation, and we are seeing inflation seriously increase. We're seeing inflation go up across the board. Chips, automobiles, we're seeing it in grocery stores, we're seeing it in, pretty much everywhere, really. And, Elizabeth Warren is riling against this. And of course, what does Elizabeth Warren believe that the problem is? What is the issue? Why do we have inflation? Now, there are a lot of theories about this. There's the monetary theory of inflation that basically says it comes from printing money. There is the basically printing money, right? Increasing the supply of money. There is the physical theory of inflation, which says that it comes from government deficits and the belief in the marketplace that the government will never pay back its debt, that's where inflation comes from. The role of inflation expectations is debated. How do we measure money exactly is debated. I mean, there's a lot of economic theory. A lot of people have written, a lot of people won Nobel Prizes in economics over this. This is a rich area of economics. But Elizabeth Warren will have none of that. I mean, all of those theories refute the popular theory of economics on the left today, which is the modern monetary theory, which suggests that the government can spend as much as it wants. The government spending is never the problem. So they clearly do not hold the physical theory of inflation, that money printing is not the issue, that government can spend at will, and that is behind the Democrats' attempt to pass spending bill after spending bill after spending bill with the idea that it doesn't cause inflation. Government spending, government borrowing doesn't cause it. So what we need another explanation, and Elizabeth Warren has the perfect explanation. The explanation is consistent with everything else she believes in. It's an explanation that serves the purpose of, promoting her ideas about the economy, her ideas about, quote, capitalism. And that is that all of this inflation we're seeing right now is caused by monopolies. The problem in the world today is not the supply chain. The problem in the world today is not too much artificial demand because we gave people checks. The problem in the world today is not supply constraints because we locked people at home and wouldn't let them work, including in China. China, by the way, just locked down Xi'an, the ancient capital of China. Xi'an is a interesting city. It's got the terracotta warriors. Actually gave a terrific talk at the University of Xi'an years ago. Fantastic. On the morality of capitalism. Biggest posters anybody's ever made for one of my talks. They put them all over campus, the morality of capitalism. I had 300 people there. It was great. Anyway, Xi'an has just been locked down. 13 million people have locked in their homes because of COVID. Anyway, it's none of that. It's not lockdowns. It's not checks in the mail. It's not helicopter money. It's not any of these things. The actual problem with inflation is greedy businesses. I'm serious, guys. So, there's just the problem is, for example, grocery stores. Grocery stores, according to Elizabeth Warren, are putting, quote, corporate profits over consumers and workers. So Kroger and Albertson and Publix, there are probably a few other grocery stores, right? Small ones, big ones, H-E-B in Texas. They're just putting corporate profits above consumers and workers. And, they're just increasing prices and increasing and increasing and increasing. And there's no competition because, I don't know, why is there no competition? Wait a minute. I don't know. There are many grocery stores. Now, there are a few big ones. But even the big ones, there are at least 3. In some places more than that. I lived in Orange County. There were quite a few. And this doesn't take into account the Trader Joe's, the Whole Foods. It also doesn't take into account the Walmart grocery, the Target is huge in groceries. It's huge in groceries. Right? At least in California, they're everywhere. Target, Fresh. There's Amazon Fresh, or at least there was. I read somewhere they might be closing. I mean, how do markets work? If Kroger raises its prices, particularly if it raises the prices overall, what are grocery store customers going to do? They're going to go to Albertsons, or they're going to go to Publix, or they're going to go to Walmart, or they're going to go to Target. And let's say they all collude, they get together, and they all raise prices. Well, one of them is going to cheat. One of them is going to cheat and lower prices. Customers are going to go there. They're going to make more money. Everybody else will have to match their prices. So no, competition drives prices down. Isn't it weird that when we keep government out of our affairs, when they don't send us checks in the mail, when they don't lock us up in our homes, that when that happens, prices actually go down, not up. As productivity increases, prices go down, not up. The chip shortage is not caused by a lack of corporate competition. There's plenty of corporate competition. The cost of milk, the cost of eggs. This is what we're experiencing right is classical inflation. It is a consequence of artificial demand chasing fewer goods because we haven't managed to catch up with the production of goods to fit the artificial demand. Where did the artificial demand come from? From the fact that we printed checks and sent them to everybody in their mailbox. This is what traditionally has been called helicopter money. And isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that whoever gets the money first, this money that the government hands out, they're the ones who drive up prices. So, for example, when financial institutions get the money first, when it's done through the Federal Reserve buying, mortgage-backed securities and things like that, where does that money flow? It flows into assets. It flows into the stock market. It flows into the bond market. It flows maybe sometimes into real estate. But when we actually send the common guy checks, where does the money flow? It flows into groceries. It flows into automobiles. It flows into other things. Their prices go up. This is not rocket science. It's completely empirically observable. Apollo asked, do you go to the corner shop to buy a pint of milk and 6 eggs? I do not, because I don't drink milk. And my wife buys most of our groceries. I sometimes go, but usually my wife is responsible for that. So I don't know what to do with eggs. I wouldn't know what an egg looked like and what to do with it. What do you do with eggs? Oh, you eat them. But then I get the final product. I don't get the process. Inflation occurs when you have a high artificial demand across the board, across the entire economy. And that can only happen where suddenly, out of nowhere, people have more money than they had before. Right? And that can happen when the government hands it over. But so Mises' theory of inflation, I think, is very consistent with what I just said, Alex. It is the idea that whoever touches the money first has the greatest impact on prices. That it is a monetary phenomena. It is caused by the Federal Reserve. It's caused by the central bank. John Cochran's theory of inflation is more focused on government deficits and expectations regarding the ability of the government to pay back its debt. Cochrane has a book coming out on his physical theory. I think it's interesting. I don't have a final statement about who I think is right here, but and my guess is you could probably integrate Mises's theory with Cochrane's theory, and you would get closest to the truth, right? You like even a wider lens? I don't think we can go much wider than this. This is like an 18 millimeter, 18 millimeters. It's already ultra wide angle lens. I think wider than this, we'd start getting distortions. My face would like, and stuff. So pay attention to this, guys, because what is Elizabeth Warren really trying to do here? What she's trying to do is provide more justification for a much more robust antitrust agenda. And we've never seen, so she's going to argue that anytime we see prices go up, that is a sign of monopoly power. And that is a sign that we should sic the antitrust division on those companies. So this is a trial balloon to see if we can expand the definition of antitrust, if we can expand the role of the antitrust authorities, if we can go after businesses in a much more systematic, much greater way. And this is, again, her fascist-like attempts to expand the role of government, control businesses more, break them up. Remember, she's pro-capitalist. She wants more competition, not less. She took those classes about perfect competition, those bogus economic classes on perfect competition, seriously. And what she wants to do is take away any kind of market power, any kind of size. She wants to destroy the winners in competition so that we constantly get every business of size broken up into tiny little bit of pieces so that we can get as close as we can to perfect competition. If you remember, perfect competition is the theory that the capitalist ideal, this is again why she's capitalist. This is the distortion. That the capitalist ideal is lots of companies competing perfectly, all having the same information, all having the same knowledge, all having the same productivity level, all innovating at the same rate, all exactly the same. The world isn't like that. There's nothing in the world like that. Nobody has perfect information, perfect knowledge. Nobody wants to be the same. Why do you start a business? Not because you want to be the same. You want to be better. You want to be different. So this is part of this broad agenda of control, 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 and using antitrust, which the Democrats have, using antitrust to control our businesses, to break them up. They're getting more and more support, unfortunately, from Republicans. Whoever is in control of the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, antitrust is on the rise. It's likely that a Republican president in the future is going to support antitrust, increase use of antitrust to go after his favorite enemies. Let's say it's big tech or something like that. Thank you, John. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate the support. John gave $25 and says he always enjoys the show. He thanks me. And Alex just rounded all his questions up to $100 for the holidays. Thank you, Alex. But that wasn't, Elizabeth Warren's been busy. She's trying to raise her profile. I think she's sensing that maybe, just maybe, Biden won't be in a position to run for president in 2 years, and maybe there'll be a primary in the Democratic Party. And given how old she is, this will be her last shot at trying to go for the presidency. And I think she's trying to raise her profile because not only is she advocating for robust antitrust in order to cure us from inflation, but she is, going after the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. And in particular, She's doing that in the context of advocating for a wealth tax and advocating for increased wealth taxes. So what's going on with Elizabeth Warren and Elon Musk? Well, I think it all started when a ProPublica report in November came out saying that Elon Musk paid no taxes in 2018, and that indeed, I can't remember the exact number. Musk, his wealth went from 2014 to 2018 from 14 billion to 455 to 14 billion. It increased by 14 billion, but he only paid 455 million in taxes. And in 2018, he paid no taxes. And what Elizabeth Warren is saying, yeah, I mean, he didn't pay taxes because he had no income. So my solution to that is let's tax wealth. And when people like Elon Musk, their wealth increases, they'd have to pay a lot of taxes. So she tweeted, according to this report, Elon Musk didn't pay any federal taxes in 2018. Neither did Jeff Bezos in 2007. From 2014 to 18, the 25 richest Americans got $401 billion richer, but only paid 3.4% of that in federal income taxes. Yeah, because they didn't, that wasn't their income, that was their wealth increase. Now, you know, this guy, Rick Macron Taco, I guess, wrote, for U.S. citizens opposed to the unrealized capital gains tax, which is a form of a wealth tax that Elizabeth Warren was supporting. Here's an example of a tactful and diplomatic letter template I made. You can use it and send it to your elected officials. And what it said was, I'm just opening this thing up. What the letter said was, I expect you to oppose the Wyden proposal to tax unrealized capital gains. Although the proposal targets billionaires and not myself, the government of elected representatives have a track record of scope creep when writing new taxes. I anticipate that any new unrealized capital gains tax will slowly make its way down to middle-class retirement investments over the next several years. It will start with billionaires, then eventually millionaires, then the modest investments will get hit possibly within a decade. Although principal residences and holding in 401k plans apparently will be excluded, the Wyden proposal takes new tax sites a step closer to posing unrealized capital gains tax on the average investor, right? So he wrote that. Elon Musk, in response to that, he says, exactly, eventually they run out of other people's money and then they come for you, right? So the argument here is not a moral argument against taxing billionaires, not an argument about how productive they are and how much, in a sense, they have already given to all of us, to quote society. It's not an argument about it's their property. It's an argument about don't tax them. If you tax them, they're ultimately going to go after you. Now, then Musk gets named Person of the Year, and of course, Elizabeth Warren doesn't like that. So she writes in Twitter, let's change the RIG tax code so the Person of the Year will eventually pay taxes and stop freeloading off of everyone else. And what is Musk's response? Right? He says, you know, stop projecting. And he attaches an article with the title of Elizabeth Warren is a fraud, her lies about being a Native American or whatever. And then he says, you remind me of when I was a kid and my friend's angry mom would just randomly yell at everyone for no reason. And then he says, please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen. And then he goes back to the original thread and he posts, and if you open your eyes for 2 seconds, you would realize I will pay more taxes than any American in history this year. Now, everybody went wild. He called Senator Karen. The internet was hugely supportive of Elon Musk. They got all excited. Musk is this amazing person. Wow, this is incredible. This is returning fire, as Scott says. This is amazing. But who won that exchange? Who won that short exchange? Well, Elizabeth Warren won it by a mile. By a mile. No argument was made against the wealth tax. All Musk did was go straight ad hominem. All he did was troll her. There was no argument other than, what's his argument? This year, I'm going to pay more taxes than any American has ever paid in history. And you know why he's doing that? Because in a Twitter poll, more people wrote that he should sell stock so he could pay taxes than people said don't sell stock. So he sold stock so he could pay taxes, less legitimizing her claim. Legitimizing the idea that he should be paying taxes on his wealth. So what he did was he turned his wealth into income so he could pay taxes. He basically completely fell into Elizabeth Warren's trap and has for months. He accepts the idea that it's legitimate for them to take our money. He says things like, I allocate capital better than they do, which is true. But that's what he should be pushing. It's my money. But instead, you see, to win on Twitter is to insult the other side. If you insult the other side, you win. But that's not who wins in life. It's not who wins in politics. You win if you can capture the moral high ground. And Musk did not capture the moral high ground. He gave in to the moral high ground. Oh, I do pay my taxes. Oh, I'll pay more taxes this year than anybody has ever paid in American history. Oh, so it's legitimate to demand that you pay a lot of taxes. Yeah, he should have refused to pay. He should have not sold his stock unless he wanted to sell it for other reasons. He should have not sold his stock, and he should not have paid. He should have said, I follow the law. The law does not demand me paying taxes when I have no income. In 2018, I had no income, paid no taxes. This year, I had X income, I'll pay my taxes. By the way, he should have said, I pay way too much taxes. You should leave the money in my hands because I'm actually productive. When you send it to Elizabeth Warren, she's unproductive. She squanders it. She wastes it. She destroys it. And by the way, look how I've changed the world. What has Elizabeth Warren done? What is the last thing she invented? Who was the last person she employed? What part of the world did she make a better place to live? Where are all the values that Elizabeth Warren has brought to the world? I can point to the values I brought to the world. I can show you the wealth I created for others and for myself. And my wealth is in my stock. And that stock, as he says sometimes in interviews, is not determined by me, its value. It's determined by the market. The market says this is the value I created. I don't know Elizabeth Warren anything, and I don't know the American government anything, and I don't know in society anything. I produced because I enjoyed producing. I produced the values I believed were good. And the only reason they're valuable is because you guys buy them. Because it makes your life better. That is a moral defense. Not, oh, stop bitching and complaining, Elizabeth Warren. Stop being such a bitch. Stop being this. Stop being that. And by the way, I pay all the taxes. I pay $11 billion in taxes this year. More than anybody's ever paid in. Okay, who cares? Why is any of that relevant? But you see, we're conditioned by Twitter to view any exchange, the winner of an exchange, is the one who insults the most, the one who trolls the most. That's the winner. Alex, thank you. All right, That was my Elizabeth Warren versus Elon Musk. Okay, final segment for today before we go to Super Chat questions. And that has to do with my favorite president, my favorite former president now, the loser in chief, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump and Bill O'Reilly, another one of my favorite human beings on the planet, who banned me from his show in 2003. So Bill O'Reilly and Donald Trump are doing these live events. I hear they're not even sold out. But anyway, they did a live event last week. And during the live event, like Bill O'Reilly is like, I got vaccinated and I got the vaccine. And Donald Trump said, I did too. And they get booed in the audience. And then Donald Trump said, and I got the booster. And then there's real boos in the audience. And people really freak out over that. And then, a few days later, Donald Trump goes on Candace Owens' show. Candace Owens, right? The person who many people told me was like the future, the great future of the right. Anyway, he's on Candace Owens' show, and Candace is challenging vaccines. She's an anti-vaxxer when it comes to COVID vaccines. She's worse than anti-vaxxer. She's a hater of Big Pharma. Anyway, in an interview with Candace Owens, Trump says, quote, I came up with a vaccine, with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good. Came up with 3 of them in less than a month. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years. So Owen cuts in and she says, and yet more people have died under COVID-19 this year, by the way, under Joe Biden than under you. And more people took the vaccine this year. So people are questioning how, and he cuts her off and he said, oh no, the vaccines work. Right? Finally, I agree with Donald Trump on something. But some people aren't taking them. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospitals are the ones who don't take the vaccine. And then he continues, but it's their choice, still their choice. And if you take the vaccine, you're protected. Look, the results of the vaccine are very, very good. And if you get it, it's a very minor form, I guess he means, in terms of the risk. People aren't dying when they take the vaccine, he says. I agree with Donald Trump. Scary idea. But many, many people on the right do not agree. The right flipped out. Flipped out. Stop the Steal organizer Ali Alexander wrote, remember what Trump said? You would be playing right into Democrats' hands by mocking the rushed, ineffective shot? Yeah, Joe Biden praised him and his booster shot. Trump, stop, just stop. Have your position backed by Fauci and allow us to have ours, which is backed by science, by the way. This losing is getting boomer level annoying. Yeah, he's losing. This is from the guy who organized Stop the Steal. Maybe he's coming to realization that Trump is indeed a loser. Conservative cartoonist Ben Garrison, who has been a strong supporter of Trump, caused some surprise by releasing a new cartoon criticizing the former president, for his position on vaccines. It depicted Trump on a vaccine bandwagon, while people wearing red Make America Great Again hats booed him. And of course, the defining voice today of the right, Alex Jones, just flipped out. Just flipped out. Right? He says, this is an emergency Christmas Day warning to President Trump. You're either completely ignorant about the so-called vaccine gene therapy that you helped ram through with Operation Warp Speed, or you're one of the most evil men that who has ever lived. You're one of the most evil men who has ever lived. I mean, I for one think it's the second, but what you said, Jones goes on to say, what you told Candace Owens is nothing but a raft of dirty lies. Candace Owens, of course, later on went on to say, I have no issue with any person who wants to get the vaccine, Owens wrote. I just will never, ever let that vaccine into my body. I believe firmly that Big Pharma is, listen to this, I believe firmly that Big Pharma is the greatest evil on the face of the planet. I am healthy, young, in shape, and simply unafraid of COVID-19. Good for her. The greatest evil on the face of the planet is Big Pharma. This is Candace Owens. This is the woman many, many people out there considered the rising voice of the Republican Party, of the right. She was this brilliant black female who was going to shake things up. Now she, from the right, declaring Big Pharma, an industry responsible for extending life, curing diseases, improving quality of life for millions, hundreds of millions, billions of people around the world. These companies who do this, they are the greatest evil on the face of the planet. And you wonder why I get so angry with the right. Because they are supposed to be better than this. I'd expect that from Elizabeth Warren. I'd expect that from OEC. I'd expect that from Bernie Sanders. But this is now from Candace Owens, from the right. All right. Now, just to give you a flavor of Trump. So Biden's press secretary and Biden thanked Trump for advocating for the vaccine, thanked him for doing warp speed, gave him credit for producing the vaccines, right? He said, this is from Biden, thanks to the prior administration and our scientific community, America is one of the first countries to get the vaccine. Of course, he doesn't mention the pharma companies, God forbid, just the scientific community, right? So then Trump is interviewed the same day that Biden has said this. He's such a narcissist. It's funny because what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? He says, Trump says, that he was both surprised and appreciative of Biden's acknowledgement. And he said, quote, "It's a little tough to be overcritical now of Biden because he just thanked us for the vaccine and thanked me for what I did. You know, that's a first. So it's very tough for me to be overly critical of Biden now." He continued to say, Biden's remarks were a terrific thing. They make a lot of people happy. I think he did something very good. It has to be a process of healing in this country, and that will help a lot. Oh, my God. Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, a narcissist of unimaginable to that somebody like that could have occupied the White House. This is the man who you want to be president again. He loves Biden now. Why? Because Biden complimented him. He loved everybody in his administration when they were nice to him, when they said nice things about him. He hated them when they criticized him, when they opposed his policies, when they challenged him. That's exactly the opposite mindset that you should have as president of the United States. You should want people to challenge you. You should want people to question you. God help us. If there was a God, we should all be praying daily that Donald Trump is not the Republican nominee in 2024. Anybody, almost, but Trump. Yeah, at this point, I'll take DeSantis. I'm not excited about DeSantis. I don't like DeSantis, but I'll take DeSantis over Trump. Absolutely. But I'm not excited about DeSantis, unfortunately. All right. We will now turn our attention to the Super Chat questions. Oh, one more thing I have to do. Sorry. One more thing. I promised Shazbot. You're going to give me 10 minutes. I'm going to a quick review of a TV show. So I was Shazbot contributed $250 to the Yaron Brook Show to review a episode, season 2, episode 9 of the Star Trek: The Next Generation, a episode called "Measure of a Man." Now, I don't know how many of you have watched Star Trek: Next Generation. I have not particularly, but I did watch this episode, and I know a little bit about Star Trek: Next Generation. I watched a few episodes in the past. I'm a fan of the original Star Trek. Anyway, in this episode, Data, who is a cyborg, he's a computer, he's a robot. Right? In this episode, a scientist wants to take Data, who is this robot, who has been working on the Enterprise and has been a valued member of the Enterprise's crew. They want to take him apart. And they want to figure out how he works, because he's a unique robot. He's like one of a kind. There's only one like him, as far as we know, in the universe. The scientist who built him has died, and all the knowledge about how to make him is gone. And the scientist wants to take him apart and figure out how he works so he can create more of him. And Data says, no, I don't want you to take me apart. And then there's a whole debate which goes in front of a trial court about the fundamental question. Is Data, this robot, is it property? And the scientist constantly calls Data it. The crew members all call him he. This is before pronouns were an issue, right? Is Data a human being? Or, well, he's not a human being. The real question is, does Data have rights? Does Data have rights? In other words, is he property? Or is he an autonomous, right-bearing being? Not human, but a being. And the question comes up in this trial, in a sense, implicitly, where do rights come from? Where do rights come from? So it's a fascinating episode. And indeed, I think one of the great strengths of Star Trek, both original and The Next Generation, is the fact that that a lot of the episodes, not all of them, but a lot of them, deal with fundamental philosophical issues. They ask fundamental philosophical questions. And they often present alternative viewpoints about these issues. So, when the prosecution has to prosecute, and it's interesting because they create a little drama, because the prosecutor is a friend of Data's, who's worked with him on the ship, who thinks he actually has rights, but is forced to be the prosecutor through, I guess, the law, and is required to do the best job he can as a prosecutor. And basically what he does is he starts taking Data a little apart and shows that Data is a machine. He's a computer, a robot, a machine. And it seems like he's won the day. That's it. But the question still is, what gives us rights? Now, they don't get the answer quite right. They don't get the answer quite right. Because they don't actually, they miss a couple of things. They don't actually conceptualize reason. But what I found fascinating was that they did conceptualize is values. Machines don't value. Machines don't want. Machines just do. It is shown the data values. He doesn't just do what his program says to do. He actually values things. He makes choices. He chooses between values. He has favorites. And of course, what they almost get to but don't is the idea that data has free will. And the data can actually reason, not just compute, not just do statistical analysis, but can actually reason. Because that is the existence of free will, the existence of reason, which necessitates free will. And if you're curious about that, you can ask Harry Binswanger next week, a week from tomorrow, who will be on the show for an interview. But it is this reasoning capability. It's free will that makes a human being in a biological sense, but makes an entity, no matter whether they're human or not, an entity that has rights. It is true that for data, and it's implied in the storyline, but it's true for data that the enemy of data, and he has enemies because he has values. He's concerned about his own existence. He doesn't want to be taken apart because he values his own life. Again, all characteristics of a being with rights. Is that force is the enemy. And force is the enemy because force is the enemy of the mind. But to have a mind means a reasoning mind. And that means you have rights. So it's a fascinating presentation. It doesn't quite get to the core of it. It doesn't quite get to the idea of reason and free will. But implicitly it does, because it talks about choices, it talks about values, it talks about his mind. And the very fact that you need a trial, the very fact that data won't just follow orders, the very fact that data is willing to say, no, I don't want that, suggests that he has a consciousness. Now, yes, I know in life, consciousness is a biological phenomenon. This isn't life, this is a TV show. So in a TV show, you can create a consciousness that is not biological. Because the essence is not the biology, the essence is a consciousness with will, values, and a drive for life. Alex asks, can data have values if he's technically immortal? He's not immortal. Rand's immortal robot is the reference. He's not immortal, that's the whole point. The whole point is, for example, you can turn him off. You can go up to him and flip a button and he's off. You can dismantle him. You can break him to shreds. The whole point about an immortal robot in Rand's example is it's immortal. You can't destroy him. You can't kill him. No matter what you do to him, he will continue living. So, no, data is not immortal. And the episode shows that, because why doesn't he want to be dismantled? Because once he's dismantled, they might not be able to put it back together again. He might cease to exist. All right, we Shazbot, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was of value. I'm not sure if you're on right now. I haven't seen you, so you're probably not there. Action Jackson, maybe make my review of this a short video, because that way Shazbot can get value directly from it without the whole listening to the whole show necessarily. All right, we're basically halfway to where we need to be. Last few shows have been difficult to get you guys to get to our $600 goal. We have a lot of people watching live now. I hope some of you who are watching live will consider supporting the Yaron Brook Show. You can support the Yaron Brook Show by Super Chat. You can go right now and give a contribution through the Super Chat feature. You can just contribute, or you can use that to ask a question. We've got $300 to go. $20 questions get priority. If we do, like Anthony just did a $20 question, so we can do a bunch of $20 questions like Anthony just did. 15 of those will get us to $300. If there's some of you on right now who are not monthly supporters, this is a great way to support the show, value for value, show your appreciation for what I do. 4 shows a week, 2 hours pretty much every show. I have a feeling today might go over 2 hours. We'll see. We're trying to get to 600, so I might have to stay on here until we get there and talk your ears off until we get to the number. Maybe you're saving up for the the New Year's Eve show on the 30th. Don't just save it all up. Let's get every show at 600. Let's make it predictable. That'd be great. High-low review will be coming. I've not had an opportunity yet to watch it, but I will be watching it the next, hopefully this week or next week. I've got a couple of movies. I've got High-Low. I've got what was the other one? Kiki's Delivery Service. And I've got a third movie whose name I don't have with me right now, but I will get to it. So just an inducement, guys. It's the contributions you make on the Super Chat. It is the contributions you make on the monthly contributors on YaronBrookShow.com/support. Patreon Subscribe Star that make this show possible, that supply me the income to be able to put the time and effort into doing these shows. You can show the appreciation for that by doing it here. All right, I will leave you alone for a little bit while I answer some of these questions. Okay, Liam asks, you really believe most people are shellacked by altruism? It's not an issue of believe, it's an absolutely fact. I think most people are self-centered narcissists who would let you die in the street. Most people aren't thinking about the needs and feelings of others. Yes, they are. Even if they reject them, they are. And they feel like they should care about them. And because they don't, because they are, most of them are narcissists, they feel guilty for not taking care of the people in the streets. That's why they vote for higher taxes on themselves. Why do you think we regulate everybody? So whether they know it or not, they're all altruists. The altruism doesn't manifest itself by sacrificing their lives for every bum in the street. The altruism manifests itself by supporting every proposal that anybody ever proposes to help the bum on the street. The fact that they can never muster an argument, even Elon Musk, can never muster an argument against stealing his money to support every bum on the street. It comes from the fact that they feel guilty for not supporting every bum on the street and therefore give to charity huge amounts of money in America. Not because they believe in the charities, but because they feel guilty for not supporting the bum on the street. It causes millions of people to go out to the soup kitchens even though they hate them. It changes behavior. And most importantly, what altruism, which infused everybody in the culture, does is it prevents people from actually pursuing self-interest. So they're narcissists, but they won't actually acknowledge the need of self-interest. They won't actually pursue a proper view of self-interest because that's not moral. And they don't like people who pursue their self-interest. Why do we regulate businesses? Why don't we trust businessmen to do the right thing? Because everybody knows businessmen are selfish. We hate selfishness because we're altruists, whether we acknowledge it or not. And therefore we know that since selfishness, as the altruists have taught us, is about lying, stealing, cheating, we have to control the businesses. And I've met so many businessmen who tell me, I would never cheat. I would never lie. I would never steal. But that other industry, that other businessman, those guys, they would all the time. So regulate every other industry except mine, because we're better. That's the narcissism. But even that narcissism is a product of altruism. It shrinks the scope of people's thinking about their life. So it absolutely permeates the culture. It's everywhere. It's what movies people like. Right? We love the superheroes who don't have a life. And we expect them to sacrifice whatever it takes to save us. And if they don't kill anybody, that's even better. Even the good guys, bad guys, they shouldn't kill. So yes, people are narcissists, but their narcissism is effused with altruism. Dave Goodman says, are CEOs having the courage to stand up enough to change the culture, or are intellectuals a more fundamental necessity? We need both. We need both. And certainly, we need the intellectuals. That is a fundamental necessity because it's the intellectuals that give the ammunition to the businessmen. But no, businessmen are not standing up for their rights. We still don't have that in the world. Maybe in 20 years, it's still not. We still don't have it. Michael says, the major failure of the objectivist movement is not being able to reach Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. God, why you put those two in the same category? I have no idea. Joe Rogan's Musk is with all the criticism and everything, he's brilliant. And Joe Rogan's very good at interviewing, and he found a little niche that's neither right nor left. Sometimes it's left, sometimes it's right. It's eclectic. It's neither here nor there. But it's non-intellectual. And it's anti-science and a lot of other things. He says, Michael says, I believe Lex Friedman can get you to sit down with Elon Musk. The fact that you believe something, Michael, does not make it reality. I doubt that Lex Friedman can get me to sit down with Elon Musk. We will certainly try. And if I got to sit down, I would take it. And I also don't believe much would happen from a sit down, but I would take it just on the off chance that something did. John says, I really enjoyed your Saturday show, although I was unable to catch it live. Excellent. Thank you, John, for the $20. Somebody else gave some Applejack, said, Happy New Year, Yaron, with $20. Thank you, guys. We're, I think, up to, $400 now. So all we need now is 10 questions with $20. We got 5. So we got 5 out of the 15. We need now another 10, and we are there. So keep the $20 questions flowing. And by the way, on December 30th, I'm hoping we can go above 1,000. I don't know if you remember, but in last year, January 31st, we raised $6,000 via Super Chat, $6,000. So I don't know if we can make $6,000 again, but we certainly should go well over $1,000. I'm very hopeful that happens. On my review, we don't have a match this year, but we're still going to push to make it a significant fundraising event and to get kind of 2022 off to a great start. I'm not doing New Year's Eve because, as it turns out, I've got a wedding to attend. Somebody's getting married on New Year's Eve, and then I've got dinner with friends. But I will do the day before. I'll do December 30th. We'll do our equivalent of the New Year's Eve show, and we will. If we can make $6,000, that'd be amazing. But it'd be great if we can shoot and get over $1,000. We want to make it. We want to make it a significant event in terms of fundraising. We want to really get 2022 off to. We want to end 2021 with a bang. Let's see, more $20 questions. James asks, in the last election, 23% of Cali Hispanics voted Trump, while 41% did so in Texas. Why did so many Texas Hispanics vote for anti-immigration, immigrant Republicans? Do they just not care about the racism against them? This has been a long time phenomenon of the fact that in Texas, Hispanics have voted Republican in much greater numbers than in California. And this has, I think, pretty deep and obvious roots. In California, the Republican Party has been explicitly antagonistic to the Hispanic community. It has been viciously anti-immigrant. It has been viciously anti-Hispanics. California, which has, as a percentage, just as many, if not more, Hispanics than California has. Texas. Republicans in Texas just don't behave in such a horrible way towards Hispanics. They have not made, at least historically, have not made immigration as big of an issue as California has. They have not made going after Hispanics a big deal. If you remember, George W., when he was governor of Texas, got a significant number of Texans voting for him, Hispanics in Texas voting for him. He was very friendly towards the Hispanic community, and indeed, as president, proposed significant immigration reform, which would allow more legal immigrants to come across the border. A bill that was stopped by the Democrats, who are traditionally the anti-immigration party. So Hispanics are very much responding to the attitude of the Republican Party in the particular states to them. They are treated really, really badly in California, and they're treated much better in Texas by the Republicans. Still not well, but better. Hispanics, both in California and in Texas, are conservatives. Certainly when it comes to things like family and when it comes to social issues, but also when it comes to economics. Hispanics are not socialists. They're not typically, big government Democrat type socialists. You don't see a lot of Hispanics going for Bernie Sanders. They voted for Biden, but they're not Bernie Sanders fans. So that would be my explanation for what happened. I also wonder whether the, the turnout rates in California among Hispanics were low because the ones who would have voted for Trump, what's the point if you're going to vote for Trump? What's the point of voting in California? It's obvious California is going to go for Biden, so you stay home. So Californian numbers, because it votes so late, by the time it votes, everybody knows who's won, and because it's so obviously Democratic, it's hard to break down the results. It's hard to analyze them. But Hispanics all over the country, maybe with the exception of California, voted in favor of Trump much more than they did in other places, because I think that they don't actually like the Democrats, and they know that Democrats deep down are anti-immigration to a large extent, just like the Republicans. Okay, Stephen asks, you've said that you believe existence is infinite and that animals have no souls. Existence is infinite. I don't think I ever said that. Is that coming from your experience with Judaism or Objectivism? I don't think existence is infinite. I don't know what you mean by existence is infinite. Time exists within existence, right? Within the universe. So existence is, the universe is finite. But what that means exactly from a physics perspective, I don't know. It's a good question for Harry Binswanger. Animals have no souls. No, they don't have any souls because they have no free will, because they have no conceptual ability. I don't consider soul some mystical thing that lives inside of us. I think our soul is our unique consciousness. It's a soul only human beings have, because only human beings can think. Only human beings can conceptualize. Only human beings can experience art, for example, which is a phenomena of the soul. Right? So no, that is my view of objectivism. I think the view of animals having no soul is, I think, a position in objectivism, as I understand what soul means. Soul being human consciousness, the feature of human consciousness, the way human consciousness functions and responds. Anthony asks, over under on the Supreme Court breaking Biden's mandate. I think there's I think it's 70-30 that they overturn the mandate, that they vote against the mandate. I think it's 70-30. Based on a technicality, they won't, I don't think they will come out against mandates, but they'll say doing it through OSHA, that wasn't the intent of the law. If you're going to have a mandate, you're going to have to do it through Congress. There won't be anti-mandates. There'll be anti this mandate and the way it was applied, the way it was initiated through OSHA. Jennifer asks, even if you were immortal, wouldn't you still need values for your life to be flourishing and not just existing? I think the point that Rand is making is even flourishing is in the context of an alternative. An alternative ultimately for flourishing is death. And not, and it could be slow death, but it's death. That is happiness, flourishing, success, achievement would mean nothing. So, for example, it's not, we have pain and pleasure, and they're there on purpose. It's not that, unless you experience pain, you can't appreciate pleasure, but unless there's the potential for pain, unless there's the potential for death, unless there's the potential for going out of existence, the values are not real. The values are not meaningful. But that is a good question because for Rand, existence and flourishing are the same. There is no existence without flourishing. Non-existent, non-flourishing is the same as dying, is the same as moving away from existence, hurting yourself, destroying yourself. That is, again, a good question for Harry Binswanger, too, the question about the robot, because he teaches classes on the meta-ethics and Rand's theory of ethics, so it's a great question for him. All right, before we go on, let's get a roundup of where we are. We're $130 short of our goal. It's not a lot, not that much money. Sometimes one person comes in and just does it, and we get there. That would be great if somebody did that, and we didn't have to go for 3 hours today in order to get there. Jacob, thank you. And also, let's stop with the, I'll take Jacob's question, but let's stop with $5 questions, just because I'm not going to have time to answer them. So let's stick with $20 questions and or more. And if somebody out there is interested in supporting the show at the $100 level, the $200 level, or the $125 level, that would be amazing because that would get us very quickly to our goal, and we could all go. We could. I know some of you want me to do 3 hours. Maybe you're holding back the money so I do 3 hours, but that's kind of borderline cruel and unusual punishment. Jeffrey writes, the term atheist has been bothering me lately. It makes it sound as if theism is the default for humans. So atheism needs to differentiate themselves. Shouldn't the reverse be true? I don't define myself relative to others. True, and that's why you shouldn't make a big deal about the fact that you're an atheist. Atheism is not a defining characteristic, right? Reason is a defining characteristic. Your values are a defining characteristic. Atheism is just an absence of belief. The only reason it gains significance, and only reason people talk about it and it has, rises to the level of something important, is because so many human beings, overwhelming majority of human beings, are not. They believe. So to contrast yourself with the majority of human beings out there, there is a term called atheism. But it shouldn't be at the forefront of who you are, what you are, and let it define you. And this is how you introduce yourself to the world. Thessie, you really should go to bed. It is 1:30 in the morning. You are exhausted. It's the beginning of the week. You've just recovered from COVID. I don't want to sound like your dad or like your doctor, but you should get some sleep and stay strong so you can watch tomorrow's show, which will be in the same hours, and you'll be up late again tomorrow. So go to sleep. Michael, what gives evil people the fuel to keep going? Why don't they just off themselves? Well, because offing themselves would require them to recognize that they're evil. What keeps them going is the idea that they are doing, quote, good, that they are, some of them in a sick way, get energy out of the evil that they do, sadists. So it's very rare that evil people know that they're evil, face the fact that they're evil, recognize their own evil. So what keeps them going is the desire to do whatever they want to do, desire to destroy, the desire to, to see the world burn. It's desire. It's pure emotion. John asks, would you rather see Rod Steiger in The Pawnbrokers or Dr. Zhivago? I'd rather see Rod Steiger in The Pawnbrokers. I'm not a big fan of Dr. Zhivago. I never enjoyed that movie. I don't know. There's something about the movie that I really didn't like. I can't remember it now. It's so many years ago. And I like Rod Steiger pretty much in anything. Don't asks a $20 question. What do you think of the negative effects on children's mental health when exposed to the COVID pandemic in the eyes of the media? I think it's horrible. I think it's, the exposure to the hysteria of the media and the irrationality of adults, and irrationality of teachers and masks and all of that, for children, for all of us, I think is terrible for our mental health. And for children in particular, they have not had a normal childhood. It has been completely irrational from day one, from the beginning of last year, from the first sign of this virus. Irrationality is ruled. That is not a way to raise children, and it's not good for them, and it's not healthy for them. So I think it's had horrible effects, but it's not just the media. It's the media, it's our politicians, it's their parents, it's teachers, it's their neighbors, it's their friends who they can't see because everybody's wearing masks. It's the whole thing is destructive for the psychology of young children. All right, that was the last $20 question. So now, guys, it's up to you whether you're gonna help us make the a goal today or not. We're short. What are we short? Catherine. You don't want to disappoint Catherine. I mean, Catherine is here today. She took some time off of a busy schedule. We could have 5 people to do $20 and maybe one of them do 25 and we're done. We're done. I won't bug you anymore. Okay? We can make 600. There's no reason to stop where you are. There you go. Jacob is putting in $10 and Amor Pancake is asking a $20 question. We can do this. We'll start with the $20 question. So just four people, $20 each, 4 $20 questions, and we're done. Have you heard of anyone specifically naming the system of anarchy when calling out mob rule, social justice, vigilante ideation, and the delegitimization of law enforcement? Do ANCAPs bear some responsibility? Yes, people do call it anarchy. And look, there's always been an element on the left that was pro-anarchy. And it's always been the case that libertarian, so-called anarcho-capitalists have been sympathetic to the left. So a lot of libertarians love, oh God, what's his name? Noam Chomsky. A lot of them. Right? They love Noam Chomsky. Why do they love Noam Chomsky? Because, you know, Chomsky is a leftist anarchist. And they'd rather have the anarchy even if they get left with it. Anarchy is too much of a value for them. Actually, if everybody listening right now just makes a $2 contribution, that would be really cool. We just do a bunch of $2. I know a lot of you can't afford $20. A lot of you can't afford 10 or 5. I recognize that and I appreciate that. Most of you, my guess is, can afford $2. So you can go in Super Chat and give $2 right now, as Ryan did. And if all of you do $2, right, we'll get there. RDF just did $5. But if you do, just make a contribution. If you don't have a question, $2, $5, that's a great idea. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, RDF. Thank you, Jacob, for doing $10. And we'd make the $600 with a huge number of small contributions, and that would be super cool. So yes, I think that ANCAPs, as they're called, legitimize anarchy. They don't differentiate between the different anarchists. They all share a big tent, an anarchist tent. They are communist anarchists, which is what Noam Chomsky is. Anarchism is an evil ideology, and people who try to legitimize it by making it part of the libertarian, so-called libertarian free market movement, you know, do damage to the cause. Lyron, I think I pronounced that right. Lyron, thanks Jennifer for $2. Anthony's doing $2. Thank you, Anthony. Lyron asks for $20. Should one boycott evil? How do you decide which evils to boycott in a mixed economy? It's very difficult. You have to decide both based on your personal values and your hierarchy of values. What things most concern you? How practical is the boycott in the sense that how much do you have to give up in order to boycott? So, for example, there's a sense in which, you know, we should boycott Chinese goods, but God, I mean, think of the price you would pay for boycotting Chinese goods, not just in dollars, but in time and effort to try to find alternatives. It's just not doable. You would forgo your life to try to boycott Chinese goods. Ian, thank you. Another $2. Yeah, I mean, if the $2 keep coming like this, we will get there. But everybody has to do $2. We've got 128 watching live. I see a number of people, you know, left so that they wouldn't have to do the $2. But we've got 130 people watching live right now. If everybody did $2, that would be $260 and we'd be there already. So Ian, thank you. David, thank you. Icepick just did $20, so that gets us even closer. So I think we are going to get there. So I think it has to be based on your personal values, Lyron. Based on what you think the extent of the effort. Stefan just did $5. Thank you, Stefan. Really appreciate it. And this is your favorite Yaron Brook show. Shirt. Cool. MH08 did $2. Thank you. And then the degree of evil. And then the other thing is there a side benefit from the boycott that you could achieve? So, for example, Stephanie, thank you. Really appreciate that. And Stephanie rounded it out to $2.50 Canadian, so it would come out just above $2 in dollars. Is there any additional good that could be done from the boycott? So, like, if there was a racist down the street and I boycotted him and I pointed out to all my neighbors that he was a racist, would I be fighting racism just a little bit? Yeah, I think it would be. And I think you get other people involved and you could create like a coalition, and maybe you could use that as an opportunity to educate people, maybe about your particular perspective. All right, Stephen, with $20. Thank you, Stephen. Do objectivists care about what happens after they die or just not worry about it? I mean, I care. I'll give you my example. I've got kids, so I care about what happens to them. I'd like to think while I'm alive that they have a future, and it's a good future, so I care about it in that sense. I care about the future because I care about the world. I care about human life. I like life, and I want to believe that good things will happen. Now, I can't control it after I die. I won't know. It won't affect me. Jeffrey says, if you sell... well, I'll get to that in a second. So, yes, we care about what happens after because we care about the world. One of the things that I don't like about the idea of dying is that I won't get to see what happens. I'm curious. I want to know. I want good things to happen. All right. Don't just ended this, right? With $100. Don't. That is a interesting... I wish I had a name that I could thank you for that. That's very generous. Thank you. He asked the question, will individual stagnation be our downfall? Yeah, you could view it that way. You could think about it that way. There's nothing more, there's nothing sadder, there's nothing more more destructive than capable individuals stagnating and doing nothing and not not doing not living the best life that they could and not making the world better in the process. So at the end of the day, a culture, a civilization, a society is just the individuals within it. And it is individuals because of the bad incentives, because of the role of government, but also because of education and because of choices they're making and a rotten philosophy. It's individuals stagnating, and it's individual upon individual upon individual upon individual, all stagnating, that ultimately leads to a society dying. The society dying. And so yes, that's what you have to watch for. That's what you have to look for. Thank you, Don, for the contribution. Thank you for the support. And thank you for the question. Good question. Applejack, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate that. All right, John has a $20 question. All right, now we're blown through our goal. We're way ahead of it. You see, I think Catherine has lost track. She's not even, she's got an adding machine going. She's converting all these things. And she's trying to figure out where we are. But we should be... yeah, I don't know. When was that? 500? Yeah, we're probably around 700 easily, maybe a little over 700. All right, John. Well, maybe just under 700 actually. I'm not sure. Maybe over 700. Anyway, we'll find out. Desmond. John says Desmond Tutu just died. Do you have any evaluation of him? No, really. I don't know that much about him, but I give him credit that Desmond Tutu fought for against apartheid. He was a voice. He was courageous. He didn't cower from confrontation. So $704. Thank you. So you guys all made $600, and then don't just put the whipped cream on top and got us way over the top. So thank you. Don't. Really appreciate it. So $704, that's fantastic. That compensates a little bit for the fact that we didn't do that well yesterday. So I think he was courageous. I think he was a real fighter against apartheid. I don't know much about his politics. I don't know much about what he did afterwards. How much did he oppose the ANC? Its corruption, its destruction of the South African economy, its bad handling of the COVID. So I don't have an assessment of him. I suspect he wasn't very good. I suspect that his religiosity and I suspect that he tended towards the left, and therefore, other than his positive role in ending apartheid, I don't want to give him credit for anything else. I don't think he deserves it, as far as I know. I might be wrong, but as far as I know. All right, we've got a bunch of $5 questions, so let's do these quickly. See if we can end by 10 p.m. my time. Liam asks, are intellectuals today less nihilistic than they were in the 1930s, or are they just can't get away with what they could back then? No, I think they're just as nihilistic, just as in the 1930s, particularly in the U.S. I don't think intellectuals in the 1930s were quite that nihilistic. I think even the the leftist intellectuals in the U.S. in the 1930s were idealistic communists, not the nihilists that we see today. These are much more similar to the kind of Weimar Republic nihilists who ultimately led us towards Hitler. And I fear that that's what the nihilists in the United States are leading us towards. Brian Bonner says, when are you having Harry on? Oh, I answered that already. With regard to your Trump must lose stand, is there any reason to think Leonard Peikoff won't vote for Trump again if he is the nominee? I have no idea. And don't ask me questions about what Leonard Peikoff is going to do. Ask, Leonard can speak for himself, and if he's chosen not to speak, that says something too. But Leonard can speak for himself. Leonard has his views. I shouldn't speak for Leonard Peikoff. And I don't know, and even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you, because anything Leonard tells me, and we've talked about Trump, we've talked extensively about Trump, and I'm not going to disclose to you what Leonard told me because it was said in a private conversation. If Leonard wanted me to make it public, he would have told me, but I don't think he wants me to. So these are like little digs on me. It's like, you think Tug should lose, but Leonard Peikoff thinks he should succeed. So, you must be, who are you? Or you must be wrong because Leonard, it's an appeal to authority, but it's just a dig on me for what? If you don't agree with me on Trump, disagree with me on Trump. Don't use an appeal to authority for it. Yeah, Leonard Peikoff's a very smart man. He's my teacher. I consider him my teacher and my very close friend. So you're not going to teach me much about Leonard Peikoff, about respecting him, admiring him, respecting his opinion about all things. I've discussed Trump with him. I've discussed immigration with him. I've debated these things with him in private. You have not. All right. But I'm not going to tell you what he said because he did vote for Trump. You know that, and I confirm that. Let's see. What do you think of the series The Expanse? I'm a big fan of The Expanse. I really like it. It's a fabulous series. I'll do a review of it at some point. If somebody wants to pay me to do a review of it, you can. I did a review of it a few years ago. Now with the season 6 and it's concluding soon, it'll be a good time to do a review because the whole series is finishing. I have a feeling it's going to be a little rushed in the end. But I'm a big fan primarily because I like the way it focuses on character. I love shows that are focused on the character of the heroes rather than just on action and other things. Scott asked, did you see Phil Magnus expose emails between Fauci and the CDC Collins conspiring to discredit the Great Barrington Declaration? Isn't this a sign of corruption in the scientific establishment? No, because that's not what I read. I read the emails, and it wasn't conspiring to discredit the Great Barrington. It was the people who disagree with the Great Barrington Declaration should speak up and say why we think it's wrong and discredit it because we think it's wrong. Now, whether you agree with the Great Barrington Declaration or not, that's not some conspiracy theory. That's him rallying other scientists to speak up against it because he thought it was wrong. I don't see why that's wrong, why that's a problem. So I know we try to couch plus it's an email. So people speak very casually in emails, as we all do. But it's not space-sponsored discrediting. Now, I don't think the state should have an opinion about these things. I've said that. But, I'm sure there are emails out there saying we should really speak up for the vaccines because all these people discrediting the vaccines, we should discredit them. We should show them that they're wrong. And they are wrong about the vaccines. The Great Barrington Declaration is more mixed. It's much better than the vaccine deniers. But, yeah, I'm against government and science. But government is in science, and you're not going to avoid scientists in the government having opinions and expressing those opinions. And when something they think is wrong, saying it's wrong. They believe that is their job. That's not some weird conspiracy. That's just the way the world works. Ray asks, what are the best resources to deconvert a conservative from Trump? Thanks for the excellent commentary. I don't know, my shows. I don't know who else takes on Trump. Some of what Sam Harris says about Trump is very good. I think the Dispatch, people like Jonah Goldberg and French and others who I don't agree with on a lot of things, are very good on why Trump is bad. So they're all conservatives. These are all conservatives who think Trump is really bad. So use them. Maybe they'll accept it from them more than they'll accept it from me. Is it not being altruistic to defend profits on the ground that so much value is created for others? No, because I made money, but I made money for myself by providing values to other people. It's a factual statement. It's not, I'm a good guy because I helped other people. No, I made money by changing the world. That's how you make money. So you're not asking for sacrifice. But the fact is that billionaires make the world a better place for everybody else to live. And that's a source of joy and support. Altruism is not about not helping other people. There's nothing wrong with not helping other people. No one trusts never Trumpers, Scott. I trust never Trumpers. I trust never Trumpers much more than I trust Trumpers. And even among the never Trumpers, if you have a mind and you're willing to use it, you can separate the good never Trumpers from the bad never Trumpers, the never Trumpers that have gone left and the never Trumpers that are actually good and actually valuable, and you can separate those kind of things. Anyway, that is, it's mindless to say, I don't trust that group. It's collectivist and mindless, and particularly when it comes to Trump, where I don't trust anybody who supports Trump, advocates for, is a committed acolyte of. The Dispatch didn't go left. Most never Trumpers didn't go left. There were a few. I never went left, for example. So I don't trust his cheerleaders. But Jonah Goldberg is a good never Trumper who didn't go left. So is David French. So is the whole crew at the Dispatch. So are many libertarians who are never Trumpers, who are good libertarian economists who didn't go left. It's just silly. It's lazy, it's collectivist, and it's irrational to label people just like that when it's clearly wrong. All right, because you don't want to be, just on the altruism point, altruism is about sacrifice. It's not about helping other people. We all help other people. Again, acolytes. I'm not saying about people who support Trump. I'm talking about people who rally to him, who defend him at every place. Lots of people who voted for Trump, lots of people who voted for Trump, I am fine with and I trust. But his acolytes, the people who trust, who support him in everything, who, again, the Peacock thing, right? I mean, God, you guys are horrible. The people who will support him no matter what, I don't trust those people. They're always Trumpers. Even if he shoots somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, which he did worse than that, those people I don't trust. Now, I know I have to qualify my words, because if I say, I don't trust people who support Trump, somebody's going to email Leonard Peikoff and says, Yaron doesn't support you because he said he doesn't support anybody who supports Trump, therefore he doesn't support you. And then Leonard gets upset, and this is what you do. Because, people who do that are just nasty human beings. Nasty human beings. Because that's not what I mean. That's not what I said. But you will do anything. And that's what I'd expect from Trumpers. Truth is out, reality is out, trolling and being willing to do anything to achieve your goal. And in this case, the goal is, I don't know, to humiliate me, to cause me and Landon Peacock to have a falling out. I don't know what the goal is, but it's pretty despicable and disgusting. This is why I love having a live chat and being able to respond to it, because it's... No, they didn't misunderstand. They didn't misunderstand. Give me a break. I was very clear, and I repeated, and I explained, and I articulated. It's a case of dishonesty and evil motivations. All right, Ryan says, because they don't want to be only suckers to have their money go to the bum on the street, they vote for others to have to join them by force. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. They all feel a prang of guilt. They all feel guilty. The more successful they are, the more guilty they feel. I've met them. I've sat down with successful businessmen. I know how they are. It is not true that it's just manipulation and narcissism that drives them. Guilt is real and powerful. What would it take for you to accept quantum physics as is, and would it mean to objectivism, quantum physics is currently stand as true? It's not. It's a silly question. You know, quantum physics as is, I accept. It's, again, the explanation for quantum physics that I don't accept. And there's no reason to accept it because it's not true. It violates the basic laws of metaphysics. And there are many other explanations that don't. I don't know if many. There's several others that don't, so I accept the one that does. You don't accept contradictions. If you accept contradictions, then nothing. You don't know anything. It would nullify all of your knowledge. That's what would happen. You know, there is a possibility that I don't understand the current explanation of quantum physics. That's possible. And that it doesn't involve a contradiction, then fine. But if it involves a contradiction, which I think it does, then it would nullify all of knowledge, and you can't do it. I said on several occasions before Peacock came out that it was okay to vote for Trump. I said that. I said I understood people who voted for Trump. I said what I didn't accept, and I didn't understand, and I wouldn't tolerate were people who justified everything Trump did, everything Trump said, every action, everything he said. And there are people here who can testify. Plus, there's the evidence. I can go back and find shows from before Peacock said that he was going to vote for Trump, where I say, I said in 2016, and I said it in 2019 and 2020, that I understand why people vote for Trump. I accept that people vote for Trump. I mean, Harry Binsway also voted for Trump. Right? Lots of objectivists have voted for Trump. What I don't accept is the blind support that people gave Trump, that sometimes you provide Trump, Scott. You never heard it because you didn't want to hear it, and you weren't listening. But I said it over and over and over again in 19, in 18, and in 20. And the proof is right there in the videos. You can go watch my shows from back then. Colt says, I wish I could ask you many more questions, but I only have limited money given that I'm a college student that lives in rural North Carolina. You could have used that $5 to ask me a question, Colt. What's your favorite scene from The Fountainhead? God. I think it's the unveiling of the studded temple, which I thought was incredibly moving. I love sculpture so much as well. But I clearly have a favorite scene in Atlas Shrugged. I don't know that I have one for The Fountainhead, or at least not one I can recall right now. If you sell YBS t-shirts, I'll buy several. All right, YBS t-shirts. I'm making a note. We tried at some point to sell like mugs and t-shirts for the Yaron Brook Show on this platform, and nobody bought any. So I think we stopped because it was just a waste of time. But I can try again. You know, if you have ideas for quotes of Yaron Brook saying things, then that's great. Yep. Jeffrey says, have you watched Succession? No, I haven't watched Succession. Everybody tells me I should. I'm not watching it, and I don't know. It's not appealing to me right now. So is there any value in watching Succession? You'll have to tell me. All right, guys, this was fun. We made our numbers even better, $736. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the support. You make the show possible. If you'd like to become a monthly supporter, which is, of course, immensely valued, YaronBrookShow.com/support, Patreon, and Subscribestar. You can also do locals. And of course, if you have ideas for T-shirt, things to write on the T-shirt, then let me know. I have Equal is Unfair T-shirts. I had Equal is Unfair T-shirts. I'll look for them, and I'll have to get them, let you know if they're still available for sale. All right, guys. You've got to constantly push your milk if you're going to have any. Yeah, I know. I'm not good at these things, right? Thanks, guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. 7 p.m. East Coast time tomorrow. Not sure what the topic will be.